It's not enough to just register a company and start selling things. What are you going to do differently? Because whatever it is that you are doing, somebody is probably doing something similar. So why should I give you my money and not give the other person? What makes you different? A homeless man today can develop and become a CEO of a multinational company 10 years from today. Now, that is some serious transformation.
Every time I get the opportunity to hold a deep conversation with anyone, I notice that everyone is fighting and working so hard to achieve some level of success for themselves. Sometimes it can be personal, it can be business, it can be family, or any other aspect of life. Everybody is working and fighting towards something. But one thing I realize is that success follows certain principles, which means that for anyone to work towards success, we must find out what these principles are and apply them to our lives. That is the only way by which success will fall into our lives. And these are some of the principles that Rabbi Daniel Lapin shares in his book, Business Secrets from the Bible. The Bible is one of the greatest books that impacts a lot of lives. And in this particular session with Dr. Kelvin Owusu, we discuss his top 3 lessons that he has picked up from the 40 lessons that Rabbi Daniel Lapin shares in this particular book. Dr. Kelvin Owusu is a health and wellness coach who also has a channel on YouTube called Kelvin Owusu. And I'll be sure to link it in the description so that you can pick up certain lessons from him on wealth and wellness, which are very important in life. And today what we are going to do is that we're going to pick his top 3 lessons that he has picked up from this book, Business Secrets from the Bible, written by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. So Dr. Kelvin, welcome to the show and thank you very much for deciding to join us today. I think it's been a while we brought you on this particular platform, but going back to all the times,
Yes, thank you very
going
much.
back to all the times that we've actually had this session, there are so many lessons we've picked from you. I think we've talked about living a formidable livelihood with you. We've talked about lessons that we picked up from the richest man in Babylon with you. And there was another session I'm trying to remember, but I think that one of the things that I learned from that particular session had to do with how you can, through your passion and your desire, be able to live the kind of life you desire to live. But today, you're welcome. How are you doing, sir?
Very, very well. And thanks for inviting me, Mark.
Yeah,
It's
it's
always good
always
to
good
be
to
here.
have you as well. I'm so excited you decided to say yes to this and then make us do it. This is a special session actually because at the time we are posting this particular video, it's my birthday, the 25th of April. So let's just call this one a birthday edition. And this topic is very crucial and important to me because I think that business success is one of the things that, in all my training programs and training sessions that we organize for small business owners and then startups, we talk about it. We look at the various areas and angles we can pick it. And the fact that we are picking this from the Bible, biblical perspective, is very important to me, Dr. Kelvin.
Yes, I mean the Bible is indeed an all-encompassing book. I mean, whether you read it as a spiritual text or you read it as a regular text, there are lessons that you can learn from the things that are written in the Bible. And as you rightly said, Rabbi Lapin is one of the interesting scholars out there. I mean, he's a Jewish rabbi who often preaches in Christian churches. That's actually how he describes himself. So, for a Jewish rabbi to preach in Christian churches, it tells you that he's somebody who is well read and quite knowledgeable on the subject. And he has actually broken this book down. I mean, personally, there are 3 books that have actually impacted me very, very significantly. The first one is Dominion Mandate by Dr. Mensa Otabil, our very own Dr. Mensa Otabil. It changed a lot of things about how I do certain things. The second one is Go for No by Richard Fenton. And then the third one, obviously, is Business Secrets from the Bible. And the reason why this third one is so important is because we have read the Bible. A lot of us have read the Bible. We've been going to church since we were born. But there are some concepts from the Bible that I never understood. I never got it until I read this book. And so it really has impacted how I approach certain things. And that's why I'm happy to share with you today on this your special day, your special birthday. This is our gift to the world on your special day. April bonds are amazing. I'm
Exactly,
also an April bond, so
exactly.
yeah.
I agree with you. April bonds are amazing, and it's cool that you shared your top three books that has really impacted your life. And I remember you introduced me to the Dominion Mandates. There was a season where you were talking about lessons you had picked up from Dominion Mandates from Reverend Dr. Mensa Otabil. And in another session, I believe that we can bring you back and then we'll talk about that book extensively. But today, let's talk about the business secrets from the Bible as shared by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Your top three lessons.
All right, so let me just let's start off by saying that there are a total of 40 lessons from this book, 40 in total. I'm just going to share three, and so if you want to know more, you need to grab a copy for yourself and then make the most of it, because there are some deeply insightful things in there. But I'm just going to share three of them, and so let's just jump right in. The first one I'm going to share is the first lesson as well. So lesson one, it says God wants each of us to be obsessively preoccupied with the needs and desires of his other children. In other words, God has made it in such a way that if you are not being relevant in the life of somebody next to you or one of his other children, you cannot hope to become wealthy. When we talk about business, basically, and he defines business as anything that you can sell and somebody can buy. That is business. So whatever, yeah, once you have an item or a service that somebody is willing to part with money for, you have a business. And that's the definition of business. And so obviously it means that you are in business to make money or to generate revenue. And so the only way that God is going to give you revenue, he's not going to rain cash from heaven into your bank account. He's not going to let cash fall in front of your courtyard. The only way God is going to put money in your hands is if you are relevant in the life of somebody next to you. You must offer something to that person for that person to part with money. You're not going to put a gun to his head. You're going to give him something of value to him, and he's going to part with an equivalent money to collect that value from you. And that's basically what the first point is talking about. But let me just read some pointers from the book so that you get what I'm saying. Now, I highlighted a few things. It says the good Lord incentivizes us to increase our dependency upon each other by offering the blessing of financial abundance for those of us who comply. In other words, we each win more of a living with less effort when we specialize and trade. This is the process called business. Now, what does this mean? It means that you can decide that you are going to you have a piece of land, and this is actually how a lot of our grandparents were living. You have a piece of land next to your house. You're going to grow your cassava, you're going to grow plantain, you're going to grow pepper, onions, tomatoes, garden eggs, whatever. And then you're going to rear some chicken, some goats, some sheep in the backyard as well. So you are literally self-sufficient. Now the question is, how did that end them up? Because they were self-sufficient, they were not ready or willing to look out for the next person next to them. Because after if that next person does not come and buy my product, I'm okay. But the Bible actually encourages you to specialize, because when you specialize, you become an expert in a few areas. If you focus solely on rearing chicken, you actually become more productive, because you actually have time to tend to those chicken and ensure that they're actually producing the eggs that you need or the meat that you need. When you are trying to do all things, when you're trying to when you are looking through multiple bottles with one eye, your attention to detail is limited, and so you end up actually losing out on a lot of things. And now let's because it's business secrets from the Bible, we cannot talk without quoting from the Bible. So let's see how he arrived at this conclusion. Now, in chapter 49 of Genesis, verse 1 to 28. So just to give you the context as to why the man is saying that you need to specialize. When Jacob was about to die, he called his 12 sons, right? Now he could have simply said, I'm about to be gathered to my people. I bless you all with everything good. May God take care of you always, and please bury me in the cave of Machpelah, which my grandfather Abraham prepared. Goodbye. But that's not what Jacob did. Jacob actually had individualized blessings for each and every one of his 12 sons. And none of these blessings were repeated. Each of them had a specific thing that they had to do, or a specific task that was outlined for them to achieve, a purpose. And so it goes to show that you as an individual also have a specific thing that you need to fulfill, something that you need to focus on. And so trying to become all things to all men, it's something that will actually limit your growth, And so the business secret number one is saying that you need to specialize in something. Find somewhere that you are good at, and then focus all your energy and attention in that space, so that when that area is mentioned, your name comes up first. That is the most important thing you can do for yourself right now, And so, just to reiterate, your life or your value needs to be relevant in the lives of God's other children for you to actually generate the kind of wealth that you are praying about.
I love the fact that you brought out this particular point, because a lot of the times we see so many people trying to do so many things together. And the challenge with that is you realize that the person is not able to actually become very successful or stand out in any of the areas. But the people who decide to start with one, focus on one, specialize in one, really give and deliver a lot of value to people. So I like that you brought that up.
Of
Yes.
course, but even before I move on, we need
Right.
to clarify one thing. You see, the fact that you are specializing in one thing does not mean that eventually you cannot, go into
Exactly.
other areas as well. You see, but there's something, but you need to be known for one thing, and then you leverage on the experience and the skills you've acquired in that area to
Mm.
build another area. Many of us, or many people, are starting so many things at the same time when they really don't have the expertise in any of those areas, and that's where the challenge is. So you are dividing yourself into three, four, five roles, when indeed you are not an expert in any of these three, four, five roles. So you really have to spend time and become an expert in one, and then leverage. The key word is leverage. You leverage on whatever you have achieved in the past to build something else for the future. All right. So moving on, the next point, the next business secret from the Bible that I want to focus on is actually secret number three. And this secret number three talks about the fact that humans alone possess the ability to transform themselves. Humans alone possess the ability to transform themselves. Now, this is actually common sense if you think about it. If you plant an orange tree, there's no way the orange tree will start bearing watermelon fruits. If a goat is born today, 2 years from today, it will just grow into a billy goat or a nanny goat. It cannot develop into a tortoise. But a homeless man today can develop and become a CEO of a multinational company 10 years from today. Now, that is some serious transformation. And that is what this is referring to. Humans are the only ones that can turn their lives around. I mean, such that when you look at them 5 years ago, you can't even recognize who they have become today. And that's a powerful, powerful thing that God has blessed us with. When He was during the creation, He said, let us create man in our image and likeness. And when you are created in the image and likeness of God, basically what it means is that you have been endued with the same abilities, the same power, the same creative skills as God Himself has. You see, and sometimes it's interesting how we belittle ourselves. Like many people do not understand what it means to be created in the image of God. I mean, I myself struggled with this thing because at a point I was asking myself, if I'm created in the image of God, how come I don't look the same as Him, or even how come I don't look like Mark? You know, but you have to understand that we are talking about the spirit of God in this discussion. You see, so when you are created in the image of God, it's not your physical face. I mean, you actually recognize the soil that you were made from. So some people were made from dark soil, some people were made from lighter soil. That's pretty much it. We're talking about the spirit of God that has been placed inside of you, and that's what makes all the difference. You see, and if you go through the Bible, it's actually this point. Let me just drop one thing that shook my core in this particular point. Now, you know how the story of Abraham, how God called him out of his family and said that, go, I'm going to show you, called him out of his land and said, I'm going to show you a new land, and then you're going to possess it and do whatever. This is what we have grown up, we have been told in church. In fact, this is what we have read in the Bible. But ancient Jewish wisdom actually has a whole different perspective. And frankly, I prefer this perspective to what I've been what I was raised with. Now let me just read it so that you can understand what I'm saying. Now, so God said, this is Genesis 12, verse 1. Leave your country, your family, your father's house to a land that I will show you. And this is what ancient Jewish wisdom is saying. Ancient Jewish wisdom posits a very important question here. Why did God choose to issue his famous command, leave your country, to Abraham rather than anyone else? There's nothing in previous passages to suggest the special suitability of Abraham. We are told almost nothing of his life, certainly not anything that would explain his lofty qualities. Why then did God choose Abraham? The answer is that God did not choose Abraham. The command, and this is where the revelation begins. The command was offered to everyone, but only Abraham responded. Abraham thus chose himself. And this is critical. This is actually a very, very critical revelation. So there was an open call that leave your family and your land and go to a place I'll show you. Everybody heard that call, but Abraham is the one that responded. You see, growing up, we were told that God chose Abraham. Now, this is actually a paradigm shift, because if God chose Abraham, then it means that some people are chosen special by God to do amazing things, and the rest of us have to struggle and suffer and wait for the breadcrumbs. But when you actually understand that God did not choose Abraham, Abraham chose himself, then it means that each and every one of us can hear the voice of God and make a decision to make a stand and accept whatever God is telling us, so that we can move forward in that resolve and achieve whatever it is that God has set for us. This paragraph alone hit me so hard and literally turned my life upside down. And I dare say my actions and attitude has never been the same, because whatever it is I need, I can choose myself and push forward and achieve it. Period.
It's wow.
So that's why this tip is
Yeah,
very
it's
important to
actually
me.
interesting you brought out that point, because to tell you the truth, in the entire book, I think that is one point that really hit me. That could it be that we are living certain kind of life because we do not necessarily understand actually what the scripture means? Because all this while, all we have known, just as you rightly said, is that Abraham was called. But the argument is also true that everybody has equal opportunity to making it in life. Everybody has equal opportunity to responding to the call of changing the situations of our lives. And if only we will put ourselves in that particular position where we will begin to think about how we can make the difference, then it means that we are responding rightly to the call of leaving our comfort zone and actually making something worth the while. Yeah, I really love that part.
Yes, I mean, so by the time I finished reading this book, I had no choice but to go and actually buy a concordance. So right now, I actually own a concordance, because I realized that we can't just read the Bible just like that. You have to go a bit, you have to go
Exactly.
behind the scenes to understand some of the
Exactly.
things that are in
Deeper learning, right?
there. Anyway, the third point I want to focus on is actually
Okay.
secret number 6. And it says that everything important and joyful you have achieved has been in partnership with at least one other person. Everything important that you have achieved has been in partnership with at least one other person. Again, this is another very deeply
Right.
insightful statement to let you understand that God did not put you here to be alone, to tough it out and then to just be
Yeah.
going by yourself. No, He put you here. He placed something in you, but He
Yeah.
didn't give everything to you. He wants you to find the other part of yourself, so that the two of you can come together and
Mm,
make a whole. This plays out in marriage, and that's why a research, even secular research, will tell you that when a man finds a woman and marries that woman, that man actually has a better. First of all, married men live longer than unmarried men. That's number one. Number two, married men tend to build a more successful career than single men. You understand? So even in secular research, it tells you that
exactly.
when you find the right partner, it plays a key role in your life. You understand? And again, we see this in business. For you to make money, if we go back to the first point I raised, for you to make money, somebody must be willing to part with their money to collect whatever you have. And that's a form of partnership right there. You know. There's one analogy that it gave in the book, a very, very powerful analogy using salt. Now, sodium and chlorine, both of these elements are actually toxic to you as a human being. If they gave you only sodium right now, you probably die. If they gave you only chlorine, you probably die. But these two very toxic items come together, and what do they form? Sodium chloride, which is one of the most essential items that like many of us cannot even survive without sodium chloride. And in case you are lost, sodium chloride is salt, table salt. That's what we add to our food. That's what we add to our Kobe, momoni, all those things is sodium chloride. So without sodium chloride, even our food would be bland. Sodium chloride is a preservative. It's a food. It improves the taste of food, but the components of sodium chloride are both toxic, but when they come together, they form something essential for life. It tells you that alone you might actually not be a good person. You might not be a good fit for a lot of things, but when you find the right partner, whether in marriage or in business, it goes a long way to set you on the right path to becoming relevant in whatever it is that is going on. And so it's a very, very, very important thing. And you also have to it also talks about so let me just read this one so that I can situate the thing. Male and female partners, mother and father, these are metaphors for giver and receiver. When sitting down with a partner to discuss a business proposal, the listener assumes the role of the female regardless of the person's true gender, and the talker is the male regardless of true gender. And so it tells you that once there's a partnership, there's a male and a female, yin and yang, black and white, beginning and the end. Everything goes in twos. And so you have to understand that it is difficult. In fact, let me just quickly bring it to our setting. One of the biggest challenges for companies' longevity in here in Ghana is because a lot of companies are sole proprietorships, so that when these company founders pass on or they die, their companies never survive. And so we hardly ever have transgenerational companies in this country. This is because most of these companies are run by one person. Juxtapose that with what's happening out there, you are more likely to find transgenerational companies out there because most companies over there are partnerships, limited liability companies. And so it automatically tells you that if you want your company to transcend you, then it is better to have that company as a limited liability or a partnership than to keep it as a sole proprietorship. This just reinforces the need for partnership. And so every good thing that you have achieved in your life today, think about it. You did that in consult in partnership with somebody else. So stop trying to go
Right.
alone.
Stop trying to go alone. Everything you have ever achieved, you did that in partnership with somebody else. I think I'm loving the lessons you have shared today. So let's just do a recap of the lessons. If I got you right, one of the lessons had to do with the fact that specialization is very key and important, and that you cannot just go around picking so many things from different angles and putting them together and saddling yourself with tasks that you cannot be able to achieve or master. But it is important for you to understand that God wants us to have the care and the heart for other people. And once we are thinking about other people, it means that we are not thinking about only ourselves. So we specialize in our field, we allow other people to specialize in their fields. And that also brings us to the point where we believe that everybody has what it takes to move ourselves from our current situation into a next level or a better level or a better situation. It's all within us. If we believe that we can make it and we rise up to the challenge, take the necessary actions and decisions and move towards it, it is possible. Then finally, we also believe that everything that we can ever be able to achieve, we need to think about partnership. And rightly, as you said, that's the challenge we are having in Ghana. So I want to ask you a question, a brief question based on small businesses, because most of the time we deal with small businesses and people who are trying to move their personal life from a particular level to a higher level. What in all these three lessons that you have shared, how do we apply these to our small businesses?
Well, so I mean, and since I read this book, or I mean, since I've been engaged in trying to improve myself, I realized that a lot of information out there is trying to do what is captured in this book. So, for instance, you have a small business, and then you are trying to pitch for funding or whatever. There's always a question that you need to answer even before it is asked, and that question is, what is your unique selling proposition? And that basically is the question from the tip number one. What are you specialized in? It's not enough to just register a company and start selling things. What are you going to do differently? Because whatever it is that you are doing, somebody is probably doing something similar. So why should I give you my money and not give the other person? What makes you different? So that is the specialization. So you have a small business that you are trying to run, no problem, it's all well and good, but you need to identify what makes you unique, what makes you stand out, what makes you different from the closest competition. And the interesting thing is that sometimes you speak to small business owners and you ask them, who is your competition? He said, me, I don't have a competitor. You don't know what you're talking about. Because if the, you must identify your competition. And then, because if you don't identify your competition, how can you identify what is unique about your company? So you have to find out who your competition is. It doesn't necessarily mean that the competition will be selling the same thing, as you are selling, but they are they are trying to attract the same money, the same people. So when somebody goes into the shop, if you are selling, let's say, baby products, somebody goes into the shop, the person has 10 cities to spend, and that 10 cities, there are other baby products that are competing for that 10 cities. So would that person use the 10 cities to buy diapers, or would that person use it to buy baby food? So even though baby food and diaper may not be in the same category, because they are competing for the same 10 cities, guess what? They are competitors. So you need to figure out how you are going to collect that 10 cities, and that is your unique selling proposition. And that speaks to specialization. If you stretch you come to the partnership side, you need to be able to identify who your partners are in the space that you're occupying. Because if you produce the item and the item does not get to the consumer, how are you going to make the sale? So, are you going to deliver the product? Is there a delivery company that you can partner with so that you can actually get the product to the consumer? Or is there a shop that you can partner with so that they can stock your product on their shelves? I mean, all these are questions that you need to ask yourself. And like I said, there are 40 other tips in this book. So, we've just spoken about three. So, we haven't even scratched the surface at all.
If you're having a lot of value from this particular session, I want to ask you to please smash the like button, and you can share this particular stream with other people so that they can benefit also. If you are not also subscribed to this particular channel, I want to recommend that please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so that we can always come your way with new contents.